Hey guys, I am really pissed off, which is why I'm making this video today. I really wish I didn't have to make a video. I'm trying to get into the comic book scene. I used to read them a lot when I was a kid. I've left it for a really long time. I have not been engaged in the comic book industry whatsoever, have no idea what's going on. And so now I'm just kind of dipping my toe back in, seeing what's going on, and it's pretty much like I'm entering a war zone. It's everybody's triggered by everything. Nobody finds anything funny. You have to be super sensitive about every issue. And then I realize it's not just comic books. This is reflected in society as a whole. I'm not the most eloquent speaker. I really was trying my best not to ever have to say anything personal other than what is about my stories, my fiction, my artwork. I tried to keep all of that separate, but at this point, now when you have this neo-Gestapo-like organization out there that they're going to hunt you down and make you lose your job and lose your credibility and call you a racist, a sexist, a misogynist, and just basically try to tear you down because you disagree with them. I mean, there's no fooling anybody. At some point in time, they're going to find you. They're going to find me. You cannot hide. And to be honest with you, I really don't feel like hiding. I really don't feel like walking on eggshells. I don't feel like I should be censoring myself. Whatever happened to art, whatever happened to being out there, to being edgy, to have a message, to create waves. What the hell happened? None of that is happening anymore. Everything is just super safe, and this is just not what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in reading it. I'm not interested in watching it. I'm not interested in creating it. So obviously now when I'm kind of looking around on what's going on YouTube, I can see that I'm not the only one. And above that, sales are showing that people don't really want it either. I mean, look at Star Wars The Last Jedi, already pulled from China. Look what's going on with Marvel Comics. Their sales are tanking, even though they're in complete denial about all of that. I mean, it's a good time, I guess, for an independent creator to try to come out, but it's really saddening as a whole, because you can be as indie as you want and edgy as you want, but you do need a major industry in order to keep people thinking about comic books, to keep them thinking about it as a viable medium, that it deserves expression, that it deserves money, that it deserves support. And usually people don't look to the indie scene for that. They look for the major scene to kind of see what the pulse is. And if Marvel is, you better believe that people that aren't going into the comic book stores for Marvel aren't also seeing the indie books that are out on nearby shelves. So it's basically a problem overall. I will pause right now to say I'm not the most eloquent speaker. I did have something written out beforehand. All of this before was just kind of me babbling, but I am going to read from the little kind of like this little thing I prepared, just of my thoughts. I will add things as I go along if I feel I need them, only to kind of keep it a stream of consciousness. I'm not a robot. So anyway, let me start. It goes, hey guys, I am O Disparo. I make dark fantasy fiction and comics. I've only recently started creating a few months ago in the comic realm, and I have a new series up on Webtoons, which you are all welcome to read. It's totally free. It's basically just my little experiment to try to work on my art and improve my art skills while also developing a story. I do have some followers on there. It's going pretty well. I'm working on the next episode right now. It's horror, fantasy, it's dark, it's going to be really gritty, and just basically, if you're very sensitive, do not read it. Don't be fooled by anything in the beginning where it looks sort of cute, because it's not going that direction whatsoever. So basically, I'm definitely setting myself into the indie comic realm, and that's fine with me. I hope that I do really well there, so that's zero problem. So I was a comic lover as a kid. I grew up without much access to money, so I wasn't a huge collector. I'm 31 years old now. I spent the better part of my life doing everything but making comics, and since making the decision to return to the world again by following a few comic book YouTubers, I realized that I wouldn't be welcome. I grew up on Mad Magazine, Cracked Magazine, George Carlin, Jay and Silent Bob, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Ren and Stimpy, the list goes on. I remember when Howard Stern was a huge name in radio, when Eminem was actually offensive, and also an era when South Park tried to push everybody's buttons all the time. I can't imagine anything like that being allowed to thrive in today's currently politically correct virtue signaling climate. That's why I'm creating, and that's also why I'm sharing my opinion. My work is for absolutely everyone who wants to read it and enjoy it without barriers. I don't care if you want to make your virtue signaling books too, because I think free speech is awesome. But I draw the line when creators are hostile and they attack fans that are showing concern for their franchises. I find it sickening, I find it offensive, I find it patronizing, and I'm not surprised whatsoever that Marvel is having a hard time making their numbers. The most appropriate topic I have to open the discussion of what I see is quote-unquote going on in the world is the topic of virtue signaling. It's my personal belief that virtue signaling is the poison that's going to lead to the demise of civilization. Drastic words you say? Absolutely. I'm delivering a drastic message in response to a drastic mentality. Let's start off first with the definition of virtue signaling, as described in the illustrious web encyclopedia Wikipedia, the favorite online reference manual for internet flame wars everywhere. Virtue signaling is the conspicuous expression of moral values, done primarily with the intent of enhancing standing within a social group. So, as a word lover, the first thing that pops out to me from the definition is the repetition of the same type of word: conspicuous, expression, enhancing, words of superficiality, appearances, the way things look, which, if you are a human being that's maneuvered in the world today for any length of time, means absolutely jack shit in terms of true content behind that appearance. So right from the get, the definition is alerting you that virtue signaling, or rather, the person flaunting how good they are without actually doing the good thing, is doing so only to get brownie points from the group they're trying to impress. Now, in terms of biology, you can signal and have merit behind the signaling, meaning that you can be showing off how good you are as a person while actually legitimately doing good deeds. But I ask you, would you like that? Would you trust the help from somebody constantly reminding you how much they are helping you as they help you? Or would you rightfully look at them side-eyed and wonder what their motivation was? Is this for me? Or is this for you? And how strong is a relationship built without any trust? Not strong at all, I'd propose. And it's a relationship that will crumble along with any of the good it happened to create, leaving the person who was intended to be helped right back where they started. So, I'm going to cut this little monologue short here, but I have a lot of other thoughts on this topic. As I said, or as I mentioned before, I really would rather just make cool comics, cool stories, cool artwork all day. I'd rather not inject my personal fat opinion into everything, but I can't help it anymore. Because obviously I am not concerned with being politically correct. I'm not concerned with offending anybody. I'm not trying to set out to be mean or anything, but I will tell you what exactly like it is, and do not shut me up because you will not like what happens. And the other thing too I did want to know is that this virtue signaling is so silly. Like, I mean, I honestly have no problem if you want to make an old black Star Trek, if you want to make an old Chinese Star Wars. Like, I don't care. In fact, I would probably watch it. Just make it good. Just make it good. I mean, I was one of those kids that liked The Wiz. I liked The Wiz. I thought it was fun. I mean, what the hell? Who cares? It's fiction. It's fiction. It's supposed to be fake. Stop taking it so seriously. And if you disagree with something in it, then you know what? Go out and make something yourself. Or don't read it, or go with something else, or dislike the video, or share your opinion or your critique, and move on with your life. Enough already with trying to get people fired because you disagree. It's so stupid. It's so stupid, and it's going to destroy everything. It's going to destroy all creativity. Everybody's going to be afraid all the time. No one's going to want to speak up. Nobody's going to want to do anything. So, at some point, even if I were ever fortunate to get hired for a book or to get a publishing opportunity, I'd have to disagree with other creators and editors over their language and treatment of fans. I'd be discovered for not being one of them and ostracized right as my hopes were riding high for my future. I've seen it happen too many times already. So I might be the perfect future purse puppy creator in terms of sexuality, in terms of racial background, in terms of having the right sob story, picking it up from the bottom to the top. But you know what? Who cares? I would want to hit all the right notes for the right reasons, because I care about a story, because I care about characters, I care about whether or not the audience is having a good time. While I do have a message, and that message is all about independence and freedom, but my message is not as important as my first love. The reason why I'm entering the industry, the reason why I'm creating today, and why I see myself creating for the rest of my life until I keel over and die. The story itself, that's all that fucking matters as a fictional creator. So, returning to my thesis, it's evident that trying to build a utopia on the unstable foundation of superficial values is fruitless. I'd even venture to say it's cruel, because it gives false hope that things are going to change when any change that might result won't have lasting power. Amplifying an issue in order to virtue signal is also cruel and is a type of straw man, since real issues go unsolved while humanity is distracted by phantoms. Tackling real world problems is hard, and you are not a bad person because you only have time to focus on your own life. That's why we research. That's why we elect people. That's why we have people whose job it is to work out the details of policy, why we have agencies to keep them in check, and at the end of the day, why we have a Second Amendment to make sure everybody's playing well with the other one. So, virtue signalers would have you believe you're selfish, but in actuality, you're a realist. World peace is unattainable in a world where actual evil exists. Evil waits for good people to lower their guard. We cannot have world peace. The best we can hope for is world maintenance, and continuing to pass down wisdom to separate truth from manipulation to all future generations. Now, I do love and support honest charities, and my views on virtue signaling through charitable giving is a whole other rabbit hole. And I encourage everyone to give often, but also to be smart and to look at the details of the charity. It's not enough for the charity to sound good if all the money you give lines the pocket of a Banana Republic ruler. Virtue signaling is the currency of the guilty, of the dishonest, and of the fearful. Truth promises you not. Let's try that again. Virtue signaling is the currency of the guilty, of the dishonest, and of the fearful. Truth promises you nothing but what is, and more often than not, the truth hurts.